Day 1 of 11 days of reefing.
All right, so this is 52 weeks. We're following the episode format from 52 weeks of reefing. But today, man, we're gonna get decades of reefing experience all compacted into just 11 episodes, one every single day until we hit 11. This is tracking that same order as 52 weeks of reefing. And I would say the fastest way to get to the current evolution of the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we spent last season in Black Friday just kind of bringing you all the way through the history all the way. And now what we're doing is just giving you where we are today.
All right, so here's the big piece, man. We got some, before we dive in, today we got 4 different episodes, I believe. Episode 1 or 2 was unveiling the tank and custom stand.
Yep.
Totally different information on that one. We had sumps, what they do, what you should select, planning a safer tank with redundancy, plumbing, overflows, and return pumps. You can hear about all that stuff. But first, we're going to share some things about, like, if I only had 10 things to tell a new or even like a current reefer, and like, well, we had your attention, I could only get these 10 things, we're going to share what those things are.
Yep.
But you know what? The first part that really came to mind to me when thinking about this is a quote that I read in the Doyle Brunson's book on poker.
The Super Systems?
Yep. It was, winning is the easy part. All you have to do is have the best hand. Not losing is the hard part.
Yeah, it rings true.
Okay, there's so many areas of life where definitely poker that's true.
Quotes.
Winning's the easy part. But reefing too, I would say look at it this way. I mean, to win at reefing, all I really need to do is throw a tank full of saltwater, throw some rock in there, throw some corals and some fish in.
I win.
Day 1, man, I won. Yeah.
I'm winning, yeah.
It's every single day after that, I also need to win or not lose.
Not lose, yeah.
This is the piece, I think, that is maybe the most fundamental thing that everybody needs to think about, which is like, every single, whatever worked for me yesterday may not work for tomorrow. And I need to stay sharp. I need to keep thinking about the beginning or what's going on to happen at tomorrow.
Yeah. Because
like it could all be taken away from me at any moment.
Instantly.
One bad decision.
Yeah. Instantly or slowly, it's all teetering on like this balance.
Yeah, we're going to get the slow part is actually a good one because often we're in reefing, we're looking for that we did something and then everything died.
Yeah.
But often it's the accumulation of a single bad decision done 100 times.
Till it hits a tipping point and then it's over. Yeah.
So we're going to learn all about all this stuff. And I think, you know, these episodes might be pretty lengthy, but at the same time, you know, we're taking decades of experiences and probably like it took me thousands and thousands of posts, forums, tanks putting up, you know, like out of 15 years of working here, all kinds of different things to be able to get to where we're at.
So like gather and hone that knowledge.
The people that watch this to come will be able to get all of that all condensed, you know, into a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Right? 11 episodes.
Yeah. That's exciting. And then I think we'll actually end up breaking it up and in the end, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Cool.
All right. So, by the way, Doyle Brunson has more wisdom than you would ever thought. We're going to start every one of these episodes with a little bit of Doyle.
Yeah.
So there we go. Also, the biggest thing that we're going to talk about today, or throughout the entire series, is betting on the highest percentage outcome. Not this thing worked for you, this thing worked for me, this thing worked for you, but because anything can work, you know, 1 out of 100 times. But what most people are looking for when they ask these questions aren't absolute. Will it work? Will it not work? Because those things don't exist in reefing.
There is no black and white.
It's just which options will have the highest percentage outcomes to your specific goals. We're going to hit on that as the focus. Everything can work once. We need to get past that. You know, I think, again, winning isn't the easy part. Not losing the hard part. Doyle Brunson, the spirit of today. So Here is the next piece here is that
The 10 things if we only knew.
if only you knew about reefing right now, I'll let you start with the first one.
The core belief?
Yep.
All right, so the core belief here is that, reefing is more than a toy set up on a whim. We're creating an environment that houses rare and unique pets, probably the most difficult pets to keep or pet ownership. Their survival and growth is the measurement of how good we are at it. So, death not being the answer, the be-all, end-all.
So if you're watching this and you're like, no, man, having a reef tank is just a toy and I don't really care whether or not I kill this stuff. It really is immaterial to me. I'll just go replace it. That's probably the wrong series for you. I don't know. Like, we're not going to have a lot of information there because it's always cheaper to replace the animals than it is to care for them properly. So, that's not the angle. And if you're really thinking about, in any old hobby, like we're into RC planes, it'd be how many loop-de-loops you could do, right?
Yeah.
In this case, the measurement of success is very much how long can you be successful with this thing? And many people are into it for decades.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a 20-year tank. You can be as successful as long as you want to be. So really, not a whim. It's not a toy. We're creating an environment that houses rare and unique pets. All right. So in that spirit of that's our core value and belief on this one, what do we believe matters most? And I'll give you the first one here.
Okay.
Consider the ROI of reefing and design around that. For me, the return is the challenge of doing something difficult, challenging the status quo, evolving our knowledge set, a bottomless pit of creative energy, and there just happens to be something beautiful and powerful at the other end. Perfecting the environment is the hobby for me, but for you, figure out what it is for you and design your hobby to that thing. If you're into cars, it might be I want to bling it out and have the chrome out alternator.
Yeah.
Another person might just want to have the fastest car known to man. Pick the path.
In a lot of those other hobbies or any really hobby, I think the main ROI or return on investment for anybody is just the joy that hobby brings you.
That is the thing. Like I read a lot of times when people talk about reefing, and I invested in this and I invested in that, and everybody chimes in and says you don't know what the word investment means if you think you're equating it to a reef tank because you're not going to get anything out of it. Like people invest in joy all over the place.
Oh yeah.
So
where else are those extra dollars going to?
Almost everything you buy is in some manner an investment in joy. Consider that. And so think about this throughout the entire series: is how do you enjoy the hobby most? What brings you the most joy, and invest in those pieces of it. Next one.
Next one is the most successful reefers that you've met, that I've met also, are those that anticipate the inevitable and know what to do when it happens. This is thinking on that. It's almost like the critical thinker, the one you're constantly full of criticism, skepticism. It actually works. In this hobby, for me, I've always questioned and second guessed and questioned everything, but it actually really works here because that leads you to think of, well, what if this? What if my lights go out? What if my salinity changes? What if my pump fails? What if my ATO fails? And then the most successful people in this hobby that I've met, that you've probably met too, are the ones that consider that and then do something about it. So they know, so they have a plan when that happens, because it is inevitable.
It's kind of like that sentence or like thought process of I'm going to let life happen to me, or I'm going to happen to life. And so, if you anticipate the inevitable, and everything breaks on the tank, almost all of it can be anticipated at this point. And if you watch this series, you'll be able to anticipate every last thing that could happen to your tank. You'll also know instantly what to do and how to prevent it from the first place.
Yeah, and that is, that's a gem of knowledge that will lead you, catapult you into the stratosphere as far as how long you're going to be in this hobby.
Totally change the trajectory.
Yeah.
The long-term trajectory. Okay, another one is emulating others' successful paths has the highest percentage success. Find a mentor and listen to someone rather than everyone.
We've heard this. This is kind of one that has been around now for, I think, a couple of years. We've been saying that ever since your speech over at Reefapalooza. It was like, stop listening to everyone, because that's how we came up. Reading the forums, reading books, learning on your own. I had the benefit of YouTube by then, but you start to listen to every single person's opinion out there, and you just get lost.
And none of them share your needs. They're just kind of telling you whatever works for them.
Yeah.
You know, and in the collage with missing the details and parts of the journey. And so when I say listen to someone, it can be, play people like Randy and I. We share a lot of information. We share journeys and tanks. But most valuable is if you can find like an actual person in your life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If somebody
who
has
the time.
store,
somebody who can actually give you the attention one-on-one.
A buddy, whatever that happens to be a little farther than you down the road. But like whatever it is like emulating other successful paths have way higher success rates than just kind of building your own.
That brings up something else that we usually, it follows in tow with that concept of listening to someone rather than anyone, and that is listening to someone who is ahead of you in your path. I don't know if I want to listen to the same guy who has the same exact questions as me, because then we're just the blind leading the blind.
It's true. I mean, like I've said this before many times, but like if I was sitting in university, I'd know exactly who I should listen to, because he's twice as old as me.
There.
He's wearing a suit, or she's wearing a suit up front.
Yep.
I wouldn't ask the person next to me to teach me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think of it as like there are mentors, and then there's various grades of peers. So really advanced reefers, or even intermediate reefers gone through a lot, like you can actually use your peer to create new ideas, but they won't be proven paths. You're just kind of challenge each other's thought and you're evolving it together. But if you're like brand new, listening to other people that haven't done this before and asking the exact same questions as you, and we tend to kind of just regurgitate whatever thing that you heard yesterday as the right answer.
It might not even be something you practice. It might just be something you heard.
In fact, most of the time, if you read a thread and you ask a question, there's 30 answers. 3 of them are from somebody you really should listen to, and 27 are somebody, it's your peer, is going through the exact same thing as you at the moment. So that is one of the core things. You really want to be successful, find somebody to listen to.
I like this next one. A good water change schedule is an incredible substitute for skill. There was a time where we went down that path of exploring the non-water change whole vibe.
A lot of skill, though.
Yeah, and there was a lot of skill involved to kind of follow that path. But if you kind of want to skip all that, like do water changes.
You could have the crummiest gear. You could have the crummiest of all kinds of bad chemistry solutions that are, or I shouldn't say bad, but less than perfect chemistry solutions, and all of it is nullified if you're willing to do consistent water changes. And the people that do consistent water changes have the highest percentage paths to success, especially in the beginning. Oh yeah. So I would really, and it's noted here that it's it's not that the water changes have to happen in all cases. It's that it is an incredible substitute for skill.
It's not very. It doesn't take a lot of skill to do a water change. I mean, mix up my salt water to the right salinity, and bring it up to temp if I'm doing a big one, and then bad water out, in with the good water. That was easy.
All right. So here's the next one too. Is what we believe matters most here. Challenges happen to us all. It's how you get past them that defines you and your journey. At some point in time, you will run into ick, you'll run into dinos, you'll run into a flooded floor, you'll run into a leaky tank, you'll run into a skimmer that's overflowing, you'll run into like 8 million things, probably all of them at some point in time. It's how do you manage those things that defines you and how successful you will be from there. because it's really easy to get down. I mean, at one point, this tank was just filled with Aptasia.
Oh gosh,
right?
we thought we'd never get over it.
No, it's like it's close to shut it down, man.
Yeah.
But you throw your effort, you throw some time at it, you turn the whole thing around. And we did it also in the 750.
Same
man,
thing.
Aptasia just exploded.
Yeah. Oh, it was a year battle. It was almost a year battle with this. It was just at a year battle on the 750. But even us who've been doing it for a while run into challenges to the day.
Part of it is knowing that it is possible to beat it and how. So when we run into the challenges, knowing what to expect and what to do.
Yeah.
Because if you told me I needed to go beat the Aptasia and you said I should do it in the next 60 days, I'm going to be really disappointed and I'm going to feel like a big loser that I wasn't able to conquer this challenge.
Yeah.
But if I said, hey, just don't let the Aptasia bother you, we'll implement this strategy, and this time next year, this won't be your problem. And on top of that, you'll have great pride because you will have conquered a challenge that very, very few people have.
Yeah, I think that that goes back to this. The successful reefers are the ones who anticipate the inevitable. Part of anticipating the inevitable is having that mindset of your expectations. When you get Aptasia, you shouldn't expect to, like, when you run into these challenges and these hurdles through the hobby, a lot of people's expectation is, I want to kill it, and I want to solve it, I want it done now. Well, if you temper some of that expectation, be like, it's okay for this to take it's a journey to get out of. Then at the other end, it feels more rewarding when you come over that hurdle. You're like, I didn't expect to kill it, to beat it in a month. It didn't take me a month. It took me, like we said, 750 took a year to get the Aptasia problem under control. But at the other end, we're like, man, look at this tank now.
It wasn't a year of hard work. It was just mostly do the right things and have some patience.
Yeah. But if you set those expectations, and you're not going to disappoint yourself.
All right. So the next 5 are what we'll call hard lessons that we'd like to avoid in the future. And these are, this case I got 6 actually, but there are 6 things, man, I would love for everybody out there to avoid. Beginners, intermediates, whatever. Share this information with other people. You share it.
All right. First one is hard lessons I would like to avoid. Choose your own adventure or piecemeal reefing has low percentage outcome. It's characterized by unsystematic partial measures.
Yes. So piecemeal reefing, meaning like I decide I want a reef tank. I'll go search perfect protein skimmer, perfect calcium solution, perfect lighting solution, perfect flow solution, perfect sand solution. And then I'll try to piece it all together. It's very similar to making cookies and deciding, well, I need chocolate chips, flour, whatever. But like, I didn't know how much of the baking soda to use, or maybe I just left it out because somebody told me I didn't need to manage that thing or whatever it is. And I make a pretty crappy cookie. And I think the best analogy that you have seen us learn in real time, and we called them tank trials for a reason. The WWC tank trial and the ULM tank trials is because we were doing just that. We were taking a recipe that works for WWC in a commercial environment that has employees that are taking care of these things all day long. What works there, and then we're going to move it over to here. And only the subtlest difference actually made the change, which was in their environment, they have thousands of pounds of live rock that are sitting in these bins just waiting to be used for tanks like this. And when we started dry rock bare bottom, we missed that one piece of the recipe, and it was kind of piecemeal recipe, right? And we had the same problems with the ULMs, where we found out that the bare bottom dry rock solution was really challenging. And it's because we were taking a bunch of thoughts, and you were watching us in real time, plug it out. And
logically and methodically in our head, like, that should work. We justified every decision on those, thinking, that makes complete total sense.
And the nature of those two things was, let's go find the next frontier, right? Whereas with the 160 here, it was, let's just take everything that we know and the most successful things for the ways that we do it and turn it into an actual path. Right? Well, it produced that type of result.
I mean, here it is today.
And so, think about that, the piecemeal reefing. It really ties again into emulating somebody or a path or a recipe of some kind. Okay, the next one here of lessons I avoid in the future, and we kind of hit on this one I think already, but almost every action we take in the tank is based on someone's advice, whether or not we sought it out, researched it, or they actually just told it. Be wary of advice coming from those who cannot show you the fruits of their success. Thank you, Greg Carroll. Unwilling to show failures or recommend products and solutions that are good for them rather than you.
This is really good.
Yeah. So think about like the sources of advice that you're getting from, because if that person can't show you, if they don't, there's like a lot of theoretical knowledge, and then there's a knowledge of application and actually doing it. That person doesn't maintain a reef tank. Just think about how you want to apply their knowledge, because it's different than a knowledge from somebody who's actually achieved the goal that you want, not just has some knowledge that you want.
I like the second part a little bit more than the first one. So, don't be wary of the advice that comes from people who can't show you the fruits of their success. In this hobby, it's really easy to see the fruits of success and identify those people, because it's a visual thing. And people are sharing their awesome tanks all the time. People are sharing like how fat and happy their fish are, and look at all this awesome stuff. So you see the fruits of success a lot. What you don't see or hardly ever see, I can't imagine like that handful of threads or whatnot I've seen that are the failures. Like, guys, look at this massive failure I did. Like, if more people were to do that, we'd probably, the success of everybody would go up if you just showed how you made mistakes.
How you fail. One of the most popular shares we have is how we fail.
Yeah, the mistakes episodes that we have, some of the most popular.
So I'm going to tell you, though, it's hard. And this is the reason why you don't see very many people tell you when their advice sucks and when they failed, right? And like, they don't come out and say, "Hey, I messed up."
Yeah, it didn't work.
And it's because it's embarrassing, man. And
there's a status attached to success. And you feel like you're chipped off of that status ladder when you're showing failures.
Yeah, and like but
it happens to everybody. That's the problem. Like, everybody fails.
I'm gonna just speak from my heart about myself, which is like, when I fail, there's not any single part of me that really wants to expose that to all of you, but I do it anyway because it's the right thing.
It's hard.
There's not any part of me that publicly wants to come out and say, "Let's get the dumb thing I did." But if I share that, other people will learn from it, and not have to go through the same, hard path that I went through. Yeah. And so when you're looking for people that give you that advice, man, and you're looking for people when you ask a question and they tell you like, the best way to do something, look for, like, has this person ever shown any humility? Because if they haven't, it puts their advice at question for me.
That's a really good one.
And the last part is the recommended products. And this is like I would call it like a plague within our hobby, which is when I ask somebody the best thing, in vast majority of cases, nobody's actually asking you what the best thing is for you.
Yeah.
Which you may have a budget that dictates this. You may have a specific desire for mounting, space, tank type.
So many variables that go in there. But how many people do you hear asked? One is the question being asked is probably the wrong question. What is the best? Because that inherently puts everybody at algae turf scrubber or a Cato reactor or refugium, and then they fight and bicker. But nobody's asking like, well, what are your requirements?
I don't really like the word best very often. Yeah. We'll use it here on some of these things, but like, what I'd rather ask is like, what are some really good options for this thing? Like, so like, if I ask you the best light, it kind of instinctively goes to the most expensive stuff or purchase defense.
Yeah, or what I bought.
Because it's hard, it's human nature, because you spent the last 6 months researching the perfect lighting solution. So once you install it and it costs you a bunch of money, when somebody asks, it's really hard to not just regurgitate, the research that you did. But if you look at that person and see, they have some needs that are different than mine. You know, they're having
Different
LPS
skill
tanks
sets.
or LPS corals in there, not SPS or softies, or they're, you know, like, I mean, just because I bought a bunch of XR, 30 radions,
Doesn't mean it's your best for
want
you.
to put zoanthids in this tank, that's not really the most cost-effective solution.
Yeah.
I mean, at minimum, you should go down to the 15. You should maybe even consider the prime. You know, it's a total different path. But if I was sitting there saying, "Oh, AI prime is the one for me," you know, but like if your goal was wall-to-wall SPS dream tank, tank of the month. A couple of AI primes probably ain't the solution either. You know, so best is a different thing, you know?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, you can look at somebody and say, oh, well, that guy drives a Ferrari. Maybe cost isn't that person's issue. I don't know. It's just like, now it's just like the best. Think of an infinite budget as the best. And it's a different thing, you know? So think about that.
Us.
Next one.
Hard lessons to avoid in the future. I can't wait until this one actually holds for everybody. Not dead is not the goal. So, hey, you know, my fish are still alive and kicking, or my coral, the little piece of it is still alive, and you know, that's still success to me. There's more to it than death being the bar.
Like the only threshold is I've essentially poured arsenic in the tank and stuff died. That's the definition of like doing a good job in this case.
Yeah.
Like you think about it like your dog or cat, you know, and there's like, you know, $1.99 food that, you know, has got wheat and soybeans and modified cornstarch as the first ingredients.
It'll keep them alive.
Yeah, I don't know. My cat lived on Meow Mix and Purina, you know, for 10 years. But I've also had cats that lived 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? And they were healthier and they didn't have joint problems and stuff. And like nutrition and caring for them was more than that. And if we think about it like with the fish, you know, you'll have the same type of result. If you think about not just the nutrition, but the habitat, the quality of the water, if you think about all of these things, not dead, that whatever I did wasn't so toxic that it just killed everything immediately. That was like 2 decades ago goal. You know, when we could barely keep the stuff alive. That is not today.
Yeah.
So the next evolution is definitely not dead, not the goal. All right. The next one here. This one's kind of double-edged sword for me, but hard lessons to avoid in the future. Trailblazers get shot in the back more than those who follow after, right? And so, I don't know, I'm a natural-born trailblazer, so I get shot in the back all the time.
It's happened a few times around here.
I want to be first down the path. I want to learn something new. I want to get excited about what I'm learning. I want to share it. I know like the whole biome testing that we're doing here, I should probably just wait for the whole episode to be done. But like, if you guys were standing here with me, I'd want to drag you down there and show you what we're learning.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know,
what are we waiting for? The good thing, it's easy for us to be trailblazers here too, is because of the resources and everything that we have that other people don't. What we're able to try and test for the community, and then share the results with the community. Whether it's good or bad, puts us in a good position to be a trailblazer. But there's opportunities for trailblazers all over, and whole new products come out.
Yeah, so I shared earlier here the ROI of this whole thing, and I shared with me that for me, it's the challenge of doing something difficult, changing the status quo, evolving our knowledge, a bottomless pit of creative energy. There just happens something beautiful and powerful at the end, which to me means part of my joy from this will be trailblazing. But I also have to understand with going to lands that nobody's gone to before, trying new things, I'm going to fail more often than other people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for you, if your goal actually isn't to find new lands, it's just to have a beautiful, epic tank in your house, consider avoiding the trailblazing paths.
Yeah.
That may come later on in the hobby for you. But really soak that in and decide where the ROI is of this for. Is it just a beautiful tank? That's the return on the investment that I get. Or is it, I find joy in trailblazing?
I find joy in failure. That's where we learn all of our best stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy
Screwing
taking the brave decisions that may not go the way that we wanted, as long as we learn something from it and move forward and evolve.
Yeah. Don't hang out in the past. All right.
Next one.
Next one here is a 5-year tank and a 1-year tank are not the same, and mentors that you're listening to should embrace that. Like there is absolutely a massive difference between how I treat and care for my 1-year tank with a little bit of frags and whatnot versus my 5-year fully grown out tank. And what worked back then absolutely will not work the same today.
So this is really important to think about when you give advice to other people, that where they are versus where you're at. And the one that always comes to mind is people who come out and say, I don't do water changes, look at my beautiful tank. And the reality is their tank actually does look beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
And it looks like a path to success, right?
What we're not considering is the age.
That was a destination, not the journey.
Yeah.
That person didn't start that way.
Nope.
Vast majority of
We
cases.
tried it. We tried starting that way and it didn't work.
A low percentage
Very
outcome.
low,
So
yeah.
it could happen.
You could do it.
It's just a low percentage outcome. Almost anybody you ask said, if I didn't do any water changes from day one, how would my tank look in a year? Low percentage outcome to what you would want.
And
right?
yeah, and the whole point of this series that we're talking about is finding those highest percentage outcomes in paths.
So, however, 5 years from now, where the corals are actually your primary pollutant, sink in the tank, actually suck all this stuff up, it's actually more stable. It doesn't have the same issues, and some people are successful with no water changes. If I had to, bet the farm here, I would say that it's a much higher percentage at any point for the people that do water changes to be successful. But I will openly acknowledge that some people are able to pull it off without.
Agree.
But think about where you are and at any specific point when you're talking about it, because the 5-year tank and 1-year tank, the things you do are not the same. They need to evolve in a direction. Okay, this is another hard lesson. This one's actually really hard to see. I don't know how to give you advice on how to identify this, but other than to know to look for it. It's the failures are rarely around to share why they failed. Right? And so all the advice that somebody's pouring out into the universe, once that advice turns south on them and they just poof out of existence.
Stop giving advice.
You don't get to hear that it failed.
Yeah.
You don't ever get to see them. And so all this kind of really left is all of the partial successes,
Yeah.
It's all of those people that are currently winning and just haven't lost yet. Winning's the easy part.
Winning's the easy part.
Not losing is the hard part. All right, so what's next?